a Brannon House Television Network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining me on the Tamara Scott Show, where we help you live God's Word in today's world. If He expects you to live through it, He has directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. And if we can just kind of keep you abreast of the headlines and what's going on, we like to do that without getting caught up in them. Good to know what's going on. As someone said, I think it was Jim Garlow in a video I was watching last night, how do you know how to pray for your legislators if you don't even know their names? You should know their names. You should know what's happening. And so we are going to cover some of those current events last night with the State of the Union as well. My guest today is Dennis Behrend, one of our favorites. We love having Dennis. I said to him, I texted him this morning and I said, what all do you want to talk about? I know no matter what I ask or what question I raise, you could talk about it with knowledge. I have no fear. So, of course, we're going to touch on the State of the Union a little bit. But first, let's welcome Dennis Behrend. He is the author of the book Endgame, which we have told you is so incredible. I have mine right here in the studio. You can tell this is the one I use and I read. It's tabbed up and marked up. And then this is the one I loan, but it's kind of tabbed up too. There you go. So the book Endgame, a great examination of the terrifying ideas of the dark state's international elite oligarchs, the disquieting of technological trends that combine to threaten the fabric of our reality and the very future of mankind. That's the book. We're going to talk about other things today, but I'm just telling you that book is still a great book for you to get. You should have it on your shelf. It is a hand guide. It's literally a hand guide to oligarchical powers. When we talk about them, whoever they are trying to take over, he just puts it all together. Transhumanism, the famines that have been planned, just all of these things. He just laid it out so well. But he's also got the website, the AmericanDailyHerald.com, AmericanDailyHerald.com. And he has been the author and a journalist and a wide variety of backgrounds, if I remember correctly. I don't think they're all in his biodigital convergence. Well, that's on his book, but his background was, I think, in chemistry, even if I'm trying to find that. Just all kinds of information here. Dennis Behrend, thank you for joining me today.
Tamara, it's always a pleasure to be on the show with you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And what a day that we get to come on together on this show after what happened last night. What an amazing event last night in Washington. Incredible.
So first off, thank you for being willing to move, because we had you scheduled Tuesday, but I needed to be at the Capitol yesterday. As it turned out, I did the show and ran up there. But because we did that, sometimes I think God knows ahead and He just nudges us. And so we moved this to today. It was perfect. I can't think of a better guest to join me the day after the State of the Union, a historical State of the Union. I don't know about you, but I was busy working on other things at the kitchen table. So I had the TV on, and just the coverage, the longest State of the Union in the history of the country. And then you could tell as time progressed, I think they all had copies of the speech maybe ahead of time, because things were coming out yesterday about the topics he was going to speak about. But as time passed, more and more and more, you could tell they were spinning. They were editing. They were putting their clips together. Colbert had a nasty little clip as well. So all right, so your comments. What was your thought? Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the entire thing, and I watched it this morning, 2 hours ago, as a matter of fact, because what I was doing last night was watching the liberal press. And I don't know, enjoying the liberal press is probably not the right response, but bemused by it, maybe, what they were reporting in real time. And the liberal press, all of the liberal organs were doing this, so-called fact-checking the president in real time.
The liberal press.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been, there you go. All right, so how did that work for you? Real-time fact-checking, how was it going?
Oh, well, it was absurd. Like you would expect. I mean, in fact, I didn't even know about this rally that the Democrats had to, try to, bring people in instead of watching the State of the Union address. But the Democrats had this rally, and it was a theater of the absurd with blow up frog suits and all kinds of crazy stuff. And when the president in his address pointed over to the other side and said, "You people are crazy," he was he's not wrong. I mean, the things they do, in some respect, it just comes across as completely ludicrous.
And so we see that and we think, well, some people are going to say it. That's not very presidential. Maybe they are, but he shouldn't have said it from the podium in the State of the Union. But as you're saying, if you knew everything that they try and do, the things behind the curtains that we don't see in DC that the liberal press maybe doesn't show us, and then when they wouldn't stand for protecting American citizens over people here illegally, what more could you say? I remember, was it last year when they wouldn't stand for a little boy who was recovering from cancer or dealing with cancer?
Right.
So I think most of America's
and today and last night they wouldn't stand for the mother of Irina Zrutskaya, who was murdered in Charlotte in the most brutal and heinous fashion. They had no compassion for her. It's outrageous. It's evil, and we could probably circle back to this idea of crazy, because on the one hand, the things they do literally look crazy, but we have to be clear that underneath the crazy, there's a little bit more going on with that particular party, and it was revealed in a shocking manner last night at the State of the Union address by the brilliance of Donald Trump. And I've never seen anything like it. Of course, today the left-wing media is spinning it as it's quote unquote, again air quotes, it's a trap that was laid for the Democrats by President Trump. But no, it was an attempt to reveal the truth about what they are doing and who they are. And that's something that we need to consider and ponder moving forward.
Yeah, it exposes them. When you see them in real time, they expose themselves, what they are, their attitudes, and how they behave. Yeah. All right, so I've got some clips. We can go to those clips, or we can come back on the crazy. What would you like to do?
Well, Tamara, whatever you think is best for your audience. Maybe if they haven't seen things for the context, maybe show them the clips.
All right. Thomas, I think you have the first clip ready for us, and I'm not even sure which one this one is. Let's just watch it and see.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Okay, let's pause it right there. Let's pause it right there. I mean, Dennis, at his age, a man who loves his country, it was maybe a different country 40 years ago, 50 years ago for him. That has to be disheartening. He hides it. He hides the heartening part, but yeah, he's allowing them to show who they are.
He is, and that's really, really important. Again, we have to think there's a degree of crazy going on here, but there's more than crazy. And that's been revealed clearly by the president in this clip. And of course, he gave them the opportunity to reveal themselves, and that's what they did. They very clearly said to the American people, we do not represent you. We represent people who want to overthrow you. We literally, it's almost as an essential coming out and saying straight out, we are the enemy of the American people. And we don't care if you know it. And that's a scary thing. So I'm by turns optimistic about what I heard last night from the president. I'm proud of the president. I'm proud to be an American today again, especially after what a brilliant speech that was. But I'm a little concerned about the state of the country and where we go as the Democrats continue down the road they're on, because they are on a crash course with something much darker than we've seen in the past. And that was hinted again a little bit by some of the reporting. I don't know if this is true. It's been alleged. We don't have an admission from her, but it's alleged this morning in the press that Rashida Tlaib, who was sitting next to Ilhan Omar, was chanting KKK, KKK, as the rest of the group was chanting USA, USA, USA. And this going all the way back, again, we had the Democrat Party was the party of pro-slavery, was the party of the KKK. And they have never ceased to be, in some respect, the party of slavery. They've always enjoyed the idea that the people should be responsive to the government, not the other way around. In other words, we're going to tax people to death, which is a form of tax enslavement in a sense. You're encroaching on people's private property and taking it from them at the point of a gun, essentially. You're making people work up until a certain point each year just to pay their taxes. And Democrats never cease to want to fasten more and more of those taxes on people. They don't want people to have the freedom of speech. It's the Democrats who have spent the last several years pursuing every kind of aggressive censorship that you can think of. It's the Democrats who don't want people to have the right to defend themselves. All of these things go all the way back to the historic Democrat Party, which has never once been the friend of freedom, never. And it's more patently obvious that they're not the friends of freedom now, and they're treading down a dark road where, I've already seen them, sort of inculcating the idea of aggressive, dangerous, deadly responses. We've had a lot of left-wing engendered political violence in the country. That I don't see that taking any less of a motion forward in the near future. Everything the Democrats do is tending to want to break up the country, and I'm fearful that if the American people don't fully awake to this, we're going to have much more dangerous times ahead because of it. The good thing is Donald Trump made them show their real selves, and now we have a reason for optimism. No one who favors America should support this party. This party is anti-American. They demonstrated it amply last night.
So I'm just now sending to Thomas. Thomas, I just sent it to you. It is a tweet. When you talked about Rashida Tlaib possibly chanting KKK, I also sent, Thomas, I sent you an article, but in that article is a tweet. And in the tweet, if we go there, the video has it because I knew I had seen it last night. I saw it. Somebody covered it last night. Now, can we say that's exactly what she said? No, but the media, whoever was reporting, I don't know at that point what channel I was even watching, or if it was one of those talk shows afterwards, but they said it looks like she's saying KKK, and it absolutely looked that way in the video. So Thomas, let me know when you get that and when you can put that up, even if it's the next segment. But in the article from Daily Wire, they're saying, is she chanting that? And then they put that link to the X post there from Matthew Foldy. So we'll get that out for you. But then it also goes on to say that she, Tlaib's office would not comment, but the district includes a highly populated Muslim area of Dearborn, Michigan, and she wore a pin to the State of the Union that said F ICE. So that was her pin. That was her pin. This is the class. If that's your opinion, that's one thing, but when you go to work to be professional, that's just astounds me. All right, so I think we have the clip. So she wore the F pin, and then she wore a watermelon earrings that apparently signify her solidarity with the Palestinian cause, and another pin that read "Stand with Survivors" and release the Epstein file. So she was a walking billboard, and her message was fairly clear. Let's see if we can see the video. Let's go again. Well, I don't know. The audience will have to decide.
That's very suggestive. Yeah, very suggestive.
If she didn't say it,
no lip reader, but
yeah, if she didn't say it, all she has to do is make a statement that that's not what she said.
Right.
All right.
Easily cleared up.
Right. We've got to go to break. We'll be right back. We're just dissecting the State of the Union last night. Stay tuned. I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, for even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduce oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. All right, talking with Dennis Behrend. We're talking about the State of the Union last night, historical in length, but also just historical by this president and all of the things, the topics that he's willing to take right to the legislators, to the congressional members right there. He's always been bold, whether he was in another country, saying it to a world leader. He would say what needed to be said right there, looking them in the face, and he did it last night. Dennis Behrend is my guest today. Dennis, so when we left, we'd just seen that quote from, one not a quote, but the lips that looked like she was saying something less than appropriate. And then the Daily Wire continues to say that the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, urged Democrats to remain quiet or skip the State of the Union altogether. So at least he knows. Just behave yourself, right? Two options that were in front of us in the House, and silence defiance, or not to attend or send a message to Donald Trump in that fashion. And Omar and Rashid could do neither. They couldn't neither.
No, they couldn't contain themselves. It's well, first of all, it's an embarrassment for them. Yeah. I think it's an embarrassment for the Democrat Party. I think it's almost embarrassing for us as a nation that we have elected representatives that behave like this. Maybe that's something that can happen in Parliament sometimes over in the UK. I've seen some fiery meetings when Parliament happens, but that is not how we conduct business here in the State of the Union address, especially. That's just beyond the pale, as it were. And I think, again, it just goes to the Democrats no longer represent anything traditionally American, much less limited government and freedom. And it's really, I think, if you are a Democrat voter, if you're out there in the Democrat Party and you've voted Democrat all your life, maybe you're you've been in a union situation, and you've been a strong Democrat supporter because the unions have been strong Democrat supporters over all these years. But you're an American, and I've worked with and known a lot of union people, and they're very patriotic, very, very patriotic. And they used to vote, just straight line Democrat because that was the party line, and the union says go ahead and vote straight Democrat. But they were still patriotic, pro-American people, and I think they've got to look at themselves now and say, that's just not the Democrat Party that once we had, at least on the face of it. There's always been, I think, some deception on the Democrat side of things about what the party represents, but it's now all out in the open. And I think their former base, of the working people in this country, the union members in this country, they all have to look at this and ask themselves, does this really represent my interests? Because my interest lies with, having a successful country so that I can have a successful life, a successful career, raise a family, have a home. These people want to overthrow all of that. And it's time for, I think, an electoral reckoning that recognizes where the Democrat Party is going, because it's not in favor of the country. It's in favor of tearing down the country.
Yeah, and if we have time, I want to come back and talk about the response from the Virginia governor, talking about somebody who's not living in reality, saw the world a totally different color and way than I did last night. But when you talk about those forgotten, what Donald Trump talks about, the forgotten people, the forgotten Americans, whether it's minorities, whether it's union workers, as you say, he's offered them. In the first term, we called it the ability to make decisions for their own destiny. They had that choice finally for the first time. And so I think he's trying to come back to that again. All right. And I want to get to, let's go to the next. This kind of follows along. I'm not sure if it fell right behind it in this order of the State of the Union. He did challenge them to pass a law outlawing sanctuary cities. I thought that would already be outlawed because it's unconstitutional when you don't support the Constitution in your oath, but he's asking for that affirmation. This follows that, I think. This is corruption. Thomas, do you want to play this clip on corruption?
I believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she was here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Coleman was only 5 years old in June.
Let's cut it there. And I will maybe show Delilah, but I wanted to show, I thought at 2:10 it showed a little bit more about Omar and Rashida. They were just both so angry. Ilmar looked so venomous at one point. I can't think of another word. Venomous.
Yeah, her behavior in Minnesota is going to be caught. That's going to be called out even more so than it already has. But my reaction to that and the situation with fraud and that kind of thing that's been going on in Minnesota is that, I kind of subscribe to the iceberg hypothesis, if you will, on these types of things. That only when these things get so out of control does a bit of it start to stick up above the surface of the water where you begin to see it. And that whatever you find is literally just the tip of the iceberg, and that the magnitude of the problem is much, much, much worse than what you now finally see when it sticks up out of the water. And Minnesota, I think, is a perfect case of this. I'm going to predict right here. Hopefully, we find these things out, and the investigation by Vice President Vance is successful at rooting these things out and bringing them to the light. But Minnesota is a relatively small state, and it's a blue state, obviously, and has been for a long time, but it's by far not the only such blue state, and it's certainly not the largest. And, following the iceberg hypothesis, what we see in Minnesota is just the tip. I think that in other blue states where similar kinds of graft and corruption are endemic and going on, most likely, we're going to find that it's orders of magnitude worse and more severe. And here's looking at you, California. I would be very suspicious about what might be going on in California. And I'd like to see that an investigation by the vice president, led by him, is successful at rooting this fraud out, because we really can't afford to have, high levels of fraud, defrauding taxpayers in this country. I mean, people are struggling too much already with the cost of living, the cost of paying for government services through taxes. Property taxes are going crazy. Here in Wisconsin, we have Governor Evers signing a 400-year property tax increase through executive stroke of the pen type of thing. That type of thing is happening in every blue state, everywhere. People can't afford it anymore, and we can't really see, especially if it's an illegal immigrant community, leasing the American taxpayer for billions of dollars. And this investigation, I think, is going to hopefully be very illuminating, and we're going to root this out.
I hope that you're correct. And when the president talks about the fact that it's costing Americans, it's costing them in their insurance, it's costing them in other ways, that we're paying for this fraud. You're stealing from Americans, flat out. You're stealing from hardworking Americans. I don't know how she continues her self-righteous role. Now, being from Somali, when someone starts talking about your people, I first thought that she kind of looked at that, the hurt in that. But you can't see the headlines, even if they're your people. If you're about justice, if you're about serving the oath to the Constitution, then you want what is right for all people, whether it's people in your community stealing from other people in your community who are here legally, who are paying taxes. Justice is justice. We're not blind to it. We uphold it. That's the difference in our party. And I used to be that way in the Democrat Party too, and we'd like to see it that way again. And I think, as you say, a lot of Americans across the country who may have been considered Democrats, I think they're with us on these issues, law and justice. I think they're with us. All right, so we've got to go to our second break. When we come back, I mean, I had like the ratepayer when he's talking about electricity and these tech companies, but I think that's a brilliant idea. I want to learn more about that. The tariffs, we'll talk about that, the Supreme Court, and then I, of course, have a video on the insider trading comment with Congress as well. So stay tuned, buckle up, and we'll hear what you have as far as highlights as well. Right back after these messages.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. WorldviewWater.net.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS. One of the products we offer, because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has the glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help with Numi Neuro, the mango colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. All right. Joining me is Dennis Behrend. You can find him at AmericanDailyJournal.com, AmericanDailyJournal.com. We're talking about the State of the Union address last night. Dennis, I can play the clip on insider trading, or is there or somewhere else we want to go?
Oh, I think insider trading is a great clip. For sure. Nancy Pelosi has been the chief beneficiary of that, I think.
So was she there last night? Because, let's play the clip and I'll ask you that when we come back. Thomas, let's play that clip from the YouTube. I think it's called.
Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed.
He goaded him, but he did thank him. And at 1:10 in that, Elizabeth Warren kind of says something. I don't know what she said. And I can't think of who that senator is. Who's that senator? He didn't know whether to get up, get down, sit down. Okay, so he shook. Like, who's he watching? Oh, yeah, go. Do you have this right here? What is she saying right here? I don't know what was that. Can you tell?
I couldn't tell either. And I remember watching that and wondering what she was thinking at this point.
Yeah, and I was curious why the camera was on her rather than Nancy Pelosi. I didn't know if the cameraman was confused.
Yep. Same as, I guess. But they did show Nancy Pelosi at one point a little bit after this, but it was, I think the president had moved on to another topic. But so I did see her there. She was there. She didn't look all that happy. I don't think she had a copy of the speech to rip up, though.
We forgot about that. I forgot about that. All right, so insider trading. I think this is going to resonate with a lot of Americans. What is it possible? Can we really get a grip on this?
Boy, that's going to be a tough one because, there's been this phenomenon for years of people with relatively modest means, so-called, getting elected to Congress and having a, again, relatively modest salary for their work in Congress. And then they emerge some years later, multimillionaires. And how did that happen? It's a mystery. It certainly doesn't look good. But again, we go back to Nancy Pelosi. She has sort of become the standard bearer, at least, alleged standard bearer for insider trading in Congress. And it's become something of a bit of a joke among some traders who, use her trades as a proxy for their own. Now, what did Nancy trade today? Let's make that move ourselves. And it's because it's assumed that she's doing something with some insider information that other people don't have. And that's a dangerous way in which the stock market can get manipulated in a nasty way. Plus, it's just unfair. Why should a congressperson be able to be involved in legislation that might impact the bottom line of an American company and change their stock price, and then be able to take advantage of that? That smacks of collusion, smacks of evil. Shouldn't be done. And can we get this legislation passed that Mr. Trump wants? Boy, I sure hope so. Is Congress going to vote against its own interests and get enough people on board? That's going to be an interesting call to see what happens there. But definitely, this is legislation that it's time for it to happen.
Yeah, I think if the public outcry is enough. I mean, we are the few watched by the many. That's a republic. And I think if we have enough outcry from the public, I mean, you saw them applauding. You saw them standing. They're no longer denying it. They were
Right.
applauding that something needed to take place. So I think we're crossing bridges. We're getting closer. And I have said this all along. And Robert Brown, Robert Brown, if you can get 300 to 500 people in a congressional district to hold their elected officials accountable, the congressional level, they can change votes, hold them more constitutional. And so I do think there will come a time. We don't need term limits. We need to take away the perks. We need to correct
Absolutely.
this united in the elections and that. So I say we come at it from those. So I think if they keep hammering this, I think if people are embarrassed about it, I think they will. I think there'll also be some manipulation to try and tell us, well, this isn't that bad. Maybe we'll leave this hoping for this. And you and I both know, what about the promises once they leave office? You cannot, as Alvina King says, a law can't change hatred in the heart, and it won't either change deceit. If you're determined to deceive, then that's my addition. But if you're determined to deceive, you will find a way.
Yeah, it's the first step. A law would be a first step. Not a bad step, a good step in the right direction. But then, of course, then you have investigation, you have enforcement, you have the moral obligation to abide by the law. All of these things have to happen as well. So, a law is not some sort of magic, flash the wand and it happens and everything's better type of situation. But it's a good first step.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Moving along, where do you want to head next? I've got my list. What's your list?
Well, I'd be happy to go down your list, but I want to quickly make one call out to, and make sure I get his name correctly. Let's see, I have it right here in front of me. Captain Royce Williams. I just want to give a shout out to Captain Williams. He received the Congressional Medal of Honor some 50 some years after his extreme bravery in the Korean War. And I was very moved to see that happened for him. And anyone who's not familiar with his story, you can be forgiven for not being familiar with his story because it was officially covered up for 50 years. He was told not to speak of it. Dwight Eisenhower, the president at the time, newly elected, after reviewing this, said, my gosh, we can't let the Soviets know that we intercepted their communications, which ended up leading to Mr. Williams' dogfight with 7 MiGs in the Korean War, all by himself. He was ordered back not to engage, but it was already too late. By the time he received that order, he's like, I'm already engaged, I'm already fighting. He shot down 4 MiGs who were attacking him. His aircraft sustained almost 300 hits. And what an amazing story. What a great American hero. And I feel bad that it took this long. He's now 100 years old, but by gosh, for 100 years old, give that man a fighter jet, because I think he can still go out and do it.
Isn't that amazing?
But what a story. And I'm just proud to be here in this country that we can recognize a great hero like Captain Williams.
Okay, one, I'm so glad you brought that one up. I should have had that one on my list. Thank you for bringing that one up. He definitely deserves our honor. And I'm like you, to see Melania putting that ribbon around his neck, I'm going to tear up here while I'm talking about it. The fact that he survived and is healthy enough to be of sound mind, to be there and enjoy it now. Thank you to the creator above for prolonging him and allowing him this great joy. He was so composed during the time. Yeah. He was so stoic. I mean, you just wonder what grit this guy is made of when you're talking about this battle that he took over. All right, so can you imagine? You've come back. What you've dealt with is beyond words. Most of us can't imagine the pressure. What is happening when you say, was it 7 or were around him? 7.
Yeah, 7 MiGs. He was outclassed. I think if you take a look at most aviation enthusiasts looking at the plane he was flying, it was an early jet. It was an F-9F Panther. And I believe he was up against the Soviet, he was up against Soviet piloted MiGs. I believe they were MiG-15s, which were considered probably, clearly the best fighter aircraft in the Korean War. And he defeated 4 of them outright, escaped with his plane intact, somewhat after having taken all these hits, and got back to his carrier and landed, and he survived this encounter. And by the way, the Korean War was not the only war in which he fought. He's a World War II veteran, a Korean War veteran, and a Vietnam War veteran. Oh my gosh. It's an incredible hero. What a story.
We don't make them like that anymore, right? We just,
it's incredible.
This is a rare human being, but to have lived what he survived, that he survived is a miracle, that he survived this age is a miracle, but then to come back, and many people in World War II, the soldiers didn't talk about what they dealt with, what they saw, because it was so horrific, and the people here just weren't, I would guess when they started, no one was going to understand it, no matter what they said. That's probably what this man had to deal with as well, but then to have your own government tell you no, tell you don't talk about it. For a lot of our soldiers today, we talk about post-traumatic stress syndrome. We never heard that back then. But I would imagine today we would have people suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome and guilt or shame being told you couldn't talk about something when you did something heroic and incredibly wonderful.
I believe what I read, he didn't even tell his wife. And I think he was ordered not to tell his wife or to really even speak of this to anyone ever. So he had to keep this to himself for 50 years. It's just incredible.
It's something we all need to investigate more. This ought to be in the classroom in every school today. This story right here ought to be in the classroom in I don't care what age, you can talk about it at a level where you can talk about his courage and his obedience. Now, one, I don't know where I'd be about a government. Look at the mindset we have today. The conspiracy theories, we don't trust our government, we don't trust our media, we don't trust education, we don't trust we took God out, we don't trust anybody anymore. In God we trust, we took him out, we don't trust any of our institutions. So if the government told someone not to talk, don't you think we'd have a whistleblower coming forward today?
They're all around now. Everyone talks these days, it seems like.
Yeah. So then the question is, and maybe for another show, but was Eisenhower right? Was he keeping us safer? Was he somehow protecting our nation by keeping it quiet?
That's something I'm actually going to look into because there's 2 sides of this story. One is keeping it quiet because we didn't want the Soviets to know that we could intercept their communications. And the other side of the story is maybe keeping it quiet because we didn't want any kind of diplomatic issue. And I would say that that latter one, if that's the reason, if that played any factor in this, that's not legitimate in this case, because I think the American people needed to know in the 1950s what they were facing in Korea. And if the Soviets were directly engaged, that's a relevant fact for the American people. That should not have been kept from them. And that's the type of government secrecy that I think all of us are against. We're definitely in favor of government secrecy when it comes to protecting secrets, such as, we can't let our enemy know that we can intercept their communication. Completely reasonable. If that's the way it was, that's perfect. Eisenhower did the right thing. But if it's a diplomatic matter and we just don't want the American people to find out because it's inconvenient that we don't want the Soviets to look bad, that's not right. And that's the type of thing we don't want.
Yeah. This gentleman should have been heralded the day he got back. He should have been celebrated in every parade since, but I'm so glad that he got this celebration in such a fabulous and grand way. Thank you to our president for taking time to note this on his 100th year. Wow, it's just so amazing. You just can't make this up, right? All right, we'll be right back. We'll have 8 minutes left. We'll continue talking about the State of the Union with Dennis Behrend. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Behrend is here, and I think I didn't say it proper last time. It's American Daily Herald. I gave you
Herald.
journal last time. AmericanDailyHerald.com. So maybe by my mixing it up, our viewers will get it right because I have to correct it so often. All right.
Maybe
so
I just need to register another domain.
There you go. There you go. All right. So next topic in the State of the Union, your thoughts?
There's certainly a lot there. I think with regard to something that's going to impact a lot of Americans who are just being born are the Trump accounts. I'm not 100% familiar with that. I know that was a policy that he favored, but apparently that's getting started here now. And so I think, that's a way of returning money back to people who are otherwise having it extracted from them via taxation. So I think that's a positive step forward. An interesting proposal that the president had was for these new retirement accounts, which would be extending to Americans who don't have access to a 401k, basically an employee match from the federal benefit program of $1,000. It'd be interesting to take a closer look at how that would be structured, but I guess we're probably pretty early on in that. That seems like it would need some legislation to be codified into law. But certainly it'd be worth looking at that and seeing how that is. Retirement planning is really a big issue for many Americans, and that issue is compounded by the somewhat labyrinthine rules that the feds have placed on how you can access the money that you have saved and how much money you can save and caps and all of those types of things. And here's a problem that I think the Trump administration needs to get deeper into in solving this. Is that if you've been saving all of your money for all of your life, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate or reasonable for the federal government to structure how you, or even when you, can access the money that you earned and saved. So that, I think, is an area that is ripe for reform, and it's probably time that we do that. We have a lot of people moving into retirement in a larger group than ever before. And we at the same time have concerns over whether or not Social Security will be even able to support those people who've been paying into it all their lives, by the way, even though it doesn't work in the sense that you're investing in Social Security and hoping to get your money back. Nonetheless, people have had money extracted from them for their entire 30 or 40 or 50-year careers, and now don't know for sure if they can rely on any support from that moving forward. Taking a look closer at what the federal government has done to Americans' retirements needs to happen. So I think that's an area where maybe this is a signal that Trump, as an administration, the Trump administration is going to get looking at this a little more closely. I'm not sure this exact proposal is a good one or not, but if it's a start at looking at this labyrinthine mess that we have for retirement, it's a place to start at least, and we really need to investigate that.
So I agree with you. I have a question for you because I know with your background, you understand the Constitution, and we want to keep government within the limits of our Constitution. And as the court case in Sheriff Mack The decision said that the Constitution is there to stop us from our own best intentions. So as much as we like this idea, is this government's role? Here's the deal. Remember Bernie Madoff? Remember the
Yeah.
whole Ponzi scheme? When that went down, my husband and I were discussing it, and I said, it sounds like Social Security to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's 100% not government's role. I agree with you. And Bernie Madoff is a great example of how things we're out of control there. But we now have a situation where we've gone from the 1930s to today, and we've put all of Americans at risk as a result of government action. And I'm not saying that we need to fix it at the government level by introducing a new program that is now also unconstitutional. What I'm saying is we've got a mess, and it needs to be revised and ended, this mess, successfully. And that's a good step for the Trump administration to take, ending this mess somehow and getting involved in fixing it. Because, we've got a lot of people at risk in this country, risk of losing their homes, risk of becoming homeless, risks of where are they going to live. They don't have support. They have no income. Things are being cut. And, this isn't something that was a problem prior to the advent of the Social Security age, when we had more constitutional government. When you were free, your money was not encumbered by such heavy and burdensome taxation at every level, where you were free to invest, whether it was in your business or in some kind of stock or bond, whatever that was. You were free to do all those things. Government didn't extract 40 to 50% of your income. Now we have that situation where 30, 40, 50% of incomes are being extracted every year. People can't save for retirement successfully. When they do, that's encumbered by every kind of crazy regulation that the bureaucrats could come up with over 75 or 80 years. And now people are at risk because of this, all of which was unconstitutional, remains unconstitutional. And it's about time this country get out of the business of managing how Americans earn and spend their money.
And then penalize them for taking it out once they want it. So, Tom, I have a link down there at the very bottom of the email on the budget.house.gov. If you could put that up, please, budget.house.gov link talking about the $2 trillion annually that hidden regulations and taxation cost the economy. And so when we're talking about hidden cost, this is some of what we're seeing. So Thomas, I don't know if you can see that. I'll put it on the Facebook page for those of you who want to look at it. So you're absolutely correct, Dennis. I agree with you. They have so messed things up. The issues that we're dealing with were government created. So if we started these accounts, it's not constitutional, but to me, it's almost reparations for the harm that they have caused. But the fix has got to include getting us back out of the Social Security mess, allowing people to have control over their funds to invest as they see fit, risk upon their own shoulders. That is true. That is a risk, but it needs to happen. I think we need to get that correction in place. So I'm hopeful that will take place. So Thomas, I don't know if you can't see that link or not at the very, very bottom there, but I'll put it, there you go. That's it right there. Competitive Enterprise Institute. They used to do this when Obama was in office, talk about the cost every year to families. And when Trump got in that first year, I think he saved, I don't know how many thousands it was per family just by reducing the taxes. The hidden taxes, whether it's your cell phone bill, your water bill, whatever it is, I'm guaranteeing you there's a hidden tax in it somewhere, which brings me to tariffs, and we're already out of time. Do we need to handle that? Another one in one line. Can you give us your thought on tariffs in the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court ruled incorrectly, clearly incorrectly. I've read that law that they were ruling on, that Trump bases tariffs on. I've read it in detail over and over and over again. Trump was in compliance with the law, and the Supreme Court messed up bad. And I think it was ideological, and it was a species of Trump derangement syndrome, frankly, that was going on there. But yeah, Trump was within his rights with regard to the law. I've read it repeatedly. Clarence Thomas's dissent is, if you want to read something that really gets to the heart of the matter and makes it correct and understandable, read Clarence Thomas's dissent. He hits the nail on the head. Thank
you for that. Thank you so much for that. And American Daily Journal. No, Herald. American Daily Herald. AmericanDailyHerald.com, where you can find more of Dennis's writings. And Dennis, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. To everyone, we tell you to live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.
2 years ago.